We're reviewing ACC schedules for 2019 with Mike McDaniel from Inside the ACC, Gobbler Country, and also during the season with ESPN at Blacksburg, game day for Virginia Tech. Number 2 seed in the ACC, number 2 seed overall, despite Pitt getting to the championship game. And Syracuse, what a job Dino Babers did with this team in 2018. Again, looking at the Atlantic Division, they're going to have to deal with Clemson, then a bunch of other programs that you would consider to be, despite Syracuse jumping to 10 wins momentarily, would seem to be on their level, which are going to be toss-ups across the board, Wake and Boston College and the like. And then you look over in the Coastal Division, they have to deal with the Duke, and they always face Pitt. Maryland out of the Big Ten would be the one big Power 5 non-conference game for Syracuse, Mike.
So Syracuse has a lot of talent returning. Now, they don't have Eric Dungy coming back, which, you know, when healthy, he was unbelievable. He stayed healthy for most of the 2018 season, a big reason why Syracuse was able to win 10 games. But, you know, he's out of the fold now. They have Tommy DeVito still on the roster, who filled in a couple of games in relief for Eric Dungy when he got a little bit banged up, and played pretty well. So if there's not really as big of a drop-off as some people are expecting there to be a quarterback, I think Syracuse has a schedule that sets up pretty well for them this year. I mean, you mentioned the 2 coastal teams they play, probably not 2 of the better coastal teams in the conference. You know, you got Pitt and Duke. You know, I think Syracuse can handle both of those teams, just given the fact that Pitt is really just returning Kenny Pickett on offense. They're losing Quadri Allison and Darren Hall, their top 2 running backs, who were a big reason why the Pitt offense was competent at all last year. They're both gone. Duke's losing Daniel Jones to the NFL draft. That's pretty significant. So if you're going to play those 2 teams and you're ever concerned about playing against them, well, the major reasons why you'd be concerned in the past are now gone, and they're moving on. So I think that Syracuse has, you know, opportunity to win those 2 coastal games, certainly in October and November. But you know, the schedule sets up pretty well. They're at Liberty and at Maryland to open. I like their chances in both of those games. Maryland's got a new coaching staff under Mike Locksley, the old Alabama offensive coordinator. They'll be looking for a quarterback because they were unable to acquire Jalen Hurts from transfer. He ends up going to Oklahoma. So Maryland's searching for a quarterback. That ought to be interesting. And their team's not that great to begin with. They're okay in the Big Ten, but they're towards the bottom. Towards the bottom of the conference. They have improved, but not a great Big Ten team. So you got Liberty and Maryland. You know, I like Syracuse's chances to be 2-0 by the time they play Clemson. Clemson's the only game on the schedule that, once again, you look at and you're like, man, that's going to be really, really tough game for them to win. But with that being said, you get that at the Carrier Dome. Anything can happen, and Syracuse upset them 2 seasons ago. So we'll have to see what happens there. Western Michigan and Holy Cross, those are 2 blowout wins, in my opinion. So I think if you can get through the first month of the season sitting at 4-1, you're going to feel pretty good if you're a Syracuse fan. You go on the road to NC State. That's a weeknight game. I believe that's a Thursday night game in October. Could be tough, but given the fact that NC State's replacing a ton of production, I like Syracuse's chances there. Already mentioned the Pitt game. At Florida State could be a little bit tricky, depending on how much they improve. You got Boston College. While that might be a tough game, you do get the Eagles at home. Then you have a bye week. You got Duke, Louisville, and Wake Forest, all winnable games in my opinion. So, I mean, this sets up pretty nicely for Syracuse. We'll just have to see what they get out of the quarterback position. But, you know, conservatively, 8 wins at worst. I think you can probably chalk them up for 9, maybe 10 wins on the high end. I think 11 is probably a little bit too high, because then at that point you're asking them to essentially just lose to a team like Clemson and then beat everybody else. But if you're sitting there at 9 or 10 wins and you're a Syracuse fan with Dino Babers, I think you're more worried about Dino Babers taking a job elsewhere than you are about anything else at that point in time. And I think that for a lot of Syracuse fans, that's a predicament they would like to be in.
Yeah, Mike, what have we been doing the last several off seasons when we've gotten together to talk ACC schedules and we looked at Syracuse? We've been trying to figure out the path to a bowl game. It's like they might squeeze out 2 wins in the ACC and go 2-6. Then they got to run the table against the non-conference games to get 6-6. And it's been this impossible path to try to get them to a bowl game. And Dino Babers went 4-8 the first 2 years. maybe he's turned the corner. Maybe we're not trying to just get them to a bowl game, but maybe he can keep this up. Maybe he's really established something there at Syracuse. And as you mentioned, they could go a clean sweep 4-0. With Maryland, the only Power 5 game. The other games at Liberty, Western Michigan, and Holy Cross for the Orange.